Oh, greetings, my relatives. Welcome to Eagle and the Condor. And here I am at Alcatraz Island today. This is November 23rd, 2023. And I wanted to bring you a very special program, today's TV show. And I wanted to include the screening of the film, Alcatraz is Not an Island. But it wasn't very possible, my relatives. Instead, we're going to show at the end of this week's program, Eagle and the Condor, we're going to screen a video from, I believe it was 2004, early 2000, vintage video taken at La Peña Cultural Center in Berkeley. And it was a program that evening to honor the warriors, a tribute to the warriors of Alcatraz, who took the island November 69 through June 1971. So today I will be interviewing J.R. Laiwa, Valerie Tulier Laiwa, and also Adam Villanueva. And I'll be talking to the three of them a little bit history about Alcatraz and history about their involvement and importantly their relationship with some of the leadership of that time, including Richard Oakes of the Great Mohawk Nation, who was here during that time with California Indian leadership that included Mickey Gimmel. So let's listen into the interview with J.R. Laiwa, Valerie Tulier Laiwa, and Adam Villanueva talking to us about Alcatraz. And don't forget the video, Vintage, honoring the warriors of Alcatraz at La Peña Cultural Center. Aho, all my relations. Welcome to another program, Eagle and the Condor. And please tell your friends to watch this show Sundays at 4 o'clock, please. And today I have some very special guests, and we're going to be talking about California Indian issues. We're going to be talking about Richard Oakes and, Alcatraz Island sunrise ceremony is happening here later on this month in November. So my relatives, later on this month in November, we'll be commemorating sunrise gathering at Alcatraz Island, honoring the warriors. That would be on Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving Day, whatever you want to call it. But it's a good time to come to the island. It was a land back actual taking the island back in November of 69 through June of 71. So that's what that ceremony will be about. We have some special guests, as I said in the program today. We have JR here from Northern California, Valerie Tulier, and Adam Villagomez. But I'll let them introduce themselves. These people are involved in California Indian issues, different aspects. JR and his people had a strong relationship with Richard Oakes and their family. In fact, even today, with Fawn Oakes and her son, Elijah. So my relatives, tune into this discussion and the film. And don't forget, Leonard Peltier is still in prison. Perhaps Adam will talk a little bit more about him. But you can call the White House, leave a message with President Joe Biden at area code 202-456-1111. That's area code 202-456-1111. And tell the president in your message you want executive clemency. We want Leonard to come home today. He has a parole hearing in 2024, but we want him home in 2023. All right, my relatives. So let me pass the microphone on to JR. Please introduce yourself, and then we'll come back with some questions.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is J.R. Laiwa, Wailaki Kashayan of Northern County here in the northern areas, and good to be with you.
Hello, my name is Valerie Tulier Laiwa, and I'm consider myself an indigenous Latina, Apache, Taino, and Mexican, Puerto Rican. I'm here today not because I'm California native, but because I have permission. I text Little Fawn and asked her permission to say a few words on her behalf, and her son Elijah, who looks just like Richard Oakes. Thank you.
My name is Adam Villagomez. I am Dakota Anishinaabe. Dakota Emachiapolo Wachintanka Wichasha. Hemie Sisoton Wachbeton Tizaptana Band. So my family is Leonard Peltier and the Rabadoos of Northwest Ames. My grandmother was Loretta Robidoux, and her sister was Alvina Robidoux, who was Leonard's mother. And I was born and raised here in California, so I grew up in Pomo territory, and good friends with Elijah and Fawn. And you know what Richard sacrificed, what he started at Alcatraz was something that really touched my family, and the fire spread, and it made great change in my family. So it's I'm very glad to be here. I hope.
Thank you, Adam, Valerie, and JR. JR, if we could start with you up in Northern California, and you told me that you're familiar with Richard Oakes, his family. I don't know if perhaps Em, you might want to share some of that experience, even watching Elijah grow up and have that quote unquote uncanny look of his grandfather Richard Oakes.
Thank you. Well, I don't know what I can say is that everything is personal. I have many things to talk about as far as indigenous ways and the life of the indigenous people. That meaning us. That mean all of us. All people of color from the north to the south. You know, one of the things about Richard, from my understanding, talking with him and being able to do that, being able to talk with Richard, is to wake up and look what is around you. I came home from Vietnam in 1969 in December. You know that you've been there. You was at the same time, pretty much where we were. And when I came home, um, I came home and I didn't leave my room for about a month because the transition from being where I was coming home, and I couldn't take the noise around me or anything. So I stayed home, and actually I drank a lot of alcohol. In that period of time, within the 30 days that I was home, um, my aunt, which you saw on the picture in the beginning, was my aunt Delphine, and her husband. In the beginning, which he comes from Standing Rock, Love Swore. Uh, they came to the residence up in Windsor at the time, and and they told me that, look, hey, Richard, sent us here and said, you can't be here. You can't stay in your room. You can't do this. You can't, you know, we need you on Alcatraz, So I don't know too much about, I wasn't involved as far as someone being able to speak and say anything, but I was awakening, being a young man just coming back from Vietnam, awakening to who I am, what I'm about. You know, uh, Coming from reservations, you just enjoy who you are. You never thought you were different. It never occurred. They had us in these prison camps that never realized. On reservations and things. And in any case, Richard asked, that I go to Alcatraz, and so I went to Alcatraz, and I stayed there for a while, and he was a very personal young man, Well, I was younger than he was, but and he had a lot of ideas. A lot of I've seen him go around, and then we went different places in California to bring more organization, more help to the organizations of what was going on. Uh, and Annie, that was my cousin. You know, she's one of my cousins at Ruffles up in Stewart's Point. You know, so I knew the family very well. You know, and went through those kinds of things of awakening of self first. You know, first we had to find who we were first individually, and I was very appreciative that someone was bringing to life, you know, that we are indigenous peoples, you know, and I didn't, I had no idea that I was different, you know. I just knew people hated me. You know, I knew people didn't like me because of my skin color and where I come from, but that didn't bother me, you know, because I come from the res. You know, it didn't mean nothing. They could feel what they wish. You know, I grew up without caring about those kinds of things, which which was pretty good. In any case, uh, you know, Richard did his things, and you know, I did my things too to survive. You know, at the time. Next thing that I hear about was when Richard got hurt. You know, he was beat with the cue stick down here in the city here, and at the time, you know, was went and try to make sure that we can be of some kind of help to him, you know, and through that period of time, like you heard on the screen, you know, that he was in a wheelchair and everything. Yes, he was, but this man, this man, he he still he couldn't talk very well. He couldn't express what he wanted to. He had so much here. He had so much to give, but he couldn't express it because people couldn't understand it. You know, because he couldn't. His voice wouldn't phrase it out for him. You know, it would be how you say. Anyways, it would huh
Slurred.
slurred, very slurred. Yes. But what was so beautiful about him, he stayed strong with the belief of fighting for the people. He stayed strong fighting for the people. Even he was hurt. You know, he got up and he started to walk again a little bit. You know, he got to walk a little bit. He was strong enough to get himself up for a man that was supposed not to exist anymore. He still got up and walked a little bit. You know, he got up and went to Stewart's Point, and in Stewart's Point, he put logs in the road and stopped people from coming through the reservation and making them pay to come through the reservation. He was still active. He was still active, fighting for the people in Stewart's Point Reservation, and that was also taken in the newspapers, stuff like that. It was and then there was this thing that was going on at the this YMCA camp. I don't know what they call it, how they say it on here, but there was a YMCA camp where this guy was in charge of that area or whatever. They call it a horse ranch and stuff, but he went there because of what was going on. This person being negative to children, actually to everyone, you know, and he went there and confronted the person, and the person shot him. He said he had a knife, that he was attacking him with a knife. Richard could barely walk, you know, and you know, it's, as usual, the words of the indigenous means nothing, you know. And you know, one of the things I'd like to say, you know, and just the end of my conversation here with you is that you know, one of the things I've learned from back in the days is that Indian is such a derogatory word. And I'm sorry if I hurt people's feelings when I say this, is because we're not Indians. We don't come from India. I'm not American. We're not American. This land is indigenous land. This is land for all of us. You know, and those are what I'm saying to you now is part of the gift that Richard left behind for me. You know, so I leave that gift to spread that out again. You know, if we can't find out who we are, if we can't say, hey, I am Wailaki, I am Kashain, if we can't say that, we have to say I am Indian, then we're not only hurting ourselves, we're disrespecting the indigenous people over there that they call themselves Indians from India. We're not showing them any respect. So maybe we should learn again of who we are. Maybe it's a gradual learning process. And if I said too much and too long, I apologize for that.
Thank you very much, JR. And yes, Richard Oakes, he was hit with a Q-sick at a pool hall, as you said, had a concussion, and then he was shot, as you said, September of 1972, shot through the heart by a white man named Morgan. And for our viewers and listeners, you can get a full story on that. It was in the San Francisco Chronicle this past October, 8-page coverage, and written by two investigative journalists, one Fagan and woman Julie Johnson. And I get big credit to them for that research. And it was definitely a miscarriage of justice. And the murder of Indians, in this case with Richard Oakes, was a constant reminder to people, Northern California, of the racism, all across the country for that matter. But racism in California hasn't ceased. And Valerie, I thought you might want to talk a little bit about the continued racism and how to remedy that by addressing it.
Thank you. I think what was important in the film, Alcatraz is not an island, is when they said that if you don't know where you're from, you don't know where you're going to. And so for me, I just want to bring context into the occupation of Alcatraz. San Francisco State was really a breeding ground for lots of movements. There was a Third World student strike, and there were lots of movements that came out of that, and particularly students like Richard Oakes. I do want to acknowledge that Richard Oakes was married to my husband's cousin, Annie Oakes, and so he was very connected to the California people. He was family to the California people, even though he's from the Mohawk Nation, which I also want to honor. I also want to say, too, that the occupation of Alcatraz didn't start there and it didn't end there. I'm glad that they give history of those who had occupied, and it also had been historically a place where they sent Hopi people there who refused to send their kids to boarding school. So Alcatraz has a historical connection to Native people. I also wanted to mention that after Alcatraz, during and after Alcatraz, there were many movements that sparked from that. One particular one is Yakiama, Indian Education Center up in Santa Rosa. And even though my husband is a very quiet and humble warrior, I'll brag for him, now I'll say it for him, that he was one of those occupiers. He was one of several people who took over that land, which was also federal government. It was either a former Navy spy station or a CIA building. I'm not quite sure, but it was definitely federal government, and they took it over, and the people of California still have that place to this day, over 50 years of occupation or reclaiming of the land. You don't occupy what belongs to you. You just reclaim it, right? So they reclaimed it, and I just want to say that JR was part of that, and Richard was his inspiration. Richard did inspire him, and I want to say that his family is very loving. His daughter, Little Fawn is just the most beautiful human being, and she's also had challenges in her life. And Richard's grandson, Elijah Oaks, is following in his grandfather's footsteps. He went a couple years ago with JR to repaint some of the I will call it signage. There are people call it graffiti, but I'll call it the signage which the indigenous people left there. And so he's learning about his grandfather's footsteps. And he's also learning to do ceremony. He took care of the fire at the sunrise ceremony. Now back to your question really quickly, I'll answer it. Things don't change. Racism doesn't change. The MO doesn't change. The issues might change, but the underlying systemic racism remains. And I say that because the reservations are forced relocations, the first set of forced relocation before the other relocation programs came about. I want to say that with that forced relocation, you have many, for example, Round Valley Reservation has several tribes or nations that came together, but every reservation still continues to experience poverty. It still continues to experience high unemployment rates. It still continues to have underdeveloped economic systems. It still has the remnants of the boarding schools, where there is historical trauma that plays out amongst family dynamics. There's alcoholism, there's drugs, and particularly today, there's this very epidemic of drugs on reservations. And we cannot blame the Native Indigenous people for that. We have to blame racism. And racism is what causes, are the root causes of the economic conditions on reservations today. And again, I just want to repeat for the audience that I don't speak because I think I'm all that, but I speak with permission of the California people. And I text Little Fawn, I'll show you the message here, permission to speak on her behalf. She apologizes for not being able to be here. I love her very much, and I love our nephew Elijah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. And Richard Oaks, in that article, My Relatives, that I referred to you in the Sunday Chronicle, I believe it was October 1st or the 2nd, one of those Sundays, but even Richard Oaks himself referred to his kids because he adopted some of Annie's kids already and had Fawn, Yvonne, like that. But he would refer to his kids as Pomo Hawks. And he was a Mohawk, and his wife, partner, was Pomo, so Pomo Hawks. He had a flock of Pomo Hawks. That's terrific. And the racism you referred to, shortly after his death in 1972, and Morgan was tried in 1973, got a light sentence, a total miscarriage. The prosecution was not prepared to handle it. They were inexperienced. Plus, white supremacy ruled the day at that time. And it's really, I think we're fortunate in the time we're living in that the President Joe Biden, referred to white supremacy now. So it's a recognized symptom, something that can be described. And with that, the racism and men and women in prisons, jails, and juvenile halls today, we have Leonard Peltier still in there, 48 years, a crime he did not commit. You have federal agents now that are saying that it was wrong. The prosecutor who prosecuted Leonard Peltier said that he was wrong and Leonard should be set free. He sent a letter to President Joe Biden. A former FBI agent said that that's the tactics of recruiting FBI agents and talking about Indian incidences. And with that, Adam, and your relationship with Leonard Peltier and his family, if you can share with us a little bit about Leonard Peltier, perhaps his family or your experiences.
I just want to share some, maybe tie it to Alcatraz and the spark that was lit there for the resistance of our people, and it just spread like wildfire. So I know Leonard, my family, after they left, North Dakota, Minnesota area. They ended up relocating to the Portland, Seattle area. So they were part of Northwest AIM. Leonard was part of the occupation of Fort Lawton. And just like Yakima, they have a cultural center there today that's still active. So that's one thing where you see that Alcatraz was an occupation, but the physical occupation did end. Where all these other places, we still have reclaimed those lands and we use them for ceremony. And it's been around 30 years. Me and JR, we both still run ceremony up over there at Yakima. So that's something else that was handed down through the spirit of resistance that was awakened at Alcatraz, is that it spread and that we all started going back to learning about our culture, about ceremonies. And I'm also a substance abuse counselor at Sonoma County Indian Health. I've been there 18 years. And the most effective treatment, it's not 12-step, it's natives going back to their ceremonial way of life and ending up where their way of life is recovery, because you can't be in ceremony and not be in recovery. You can't do drugs or alcohol and do ceremony at the same time. That's a law that I learned through one of our brothers who he gave his life so that I understood those laws are real. He showed me that. So my family, they were Northwest AIM, and so after Alcatraz ended and a lot of different organizations came together and started doing the Trail of Broken Treaties, some of the caravan from Northwest AIM stopped at my parents' house in Hillsburg. So we had family members there. We had some family members that lived down here. Then they ended up going to the BIA occupation, and then they ended up going to Wounded Knee too. So we have a lot of family members that were part of all that. And Leonard, we have pictures of him in Geyserville. He used to come and visit, in Guerneville and in Hillsburg. And so there are some, or let me just say that what I noticed with all of the warriors who they sacrificed by going to these occupations, they sacrificed by going to Wounded Knee. And I saw a lot of them, they left their children. I see that with a lot of the leaders, that they did something that needed to be done and they helped us so that spark did not die out. Because it was so close, where some of the first Sundances that started, to come back, they had to round up the elders. They went to one man, they said that, I could run it, but I don't know the songs, but go talk to this old man over there and he knows the songs. And he said, I don't know all the songs, you're going to have to, there's a couple other guys, and some of them were barely alive, but they got them just in time for our ceremonies to be able to start again, for the Sundance to start again. And for me, my own individual life, it's a sacrifice that started at Alcatraz. It's a sacrifice of all the people that were AIM, a sacrifice that Leonard and my family that they did, that made it possible for me to have something to save my life, because it was ceremony, and it was only ceremony that saved my life. And so there was a lot of sacrifice, and there's a lot of sacrifice we a lot of people haven't heard of. Leonard had a half brother, and he was really friendly, really good man. And a lot of the family was kind of nomadic. So he would travel around, he would hitchhike around. He ended up being found hung in the jail cell. And this was after Leonard was arrested and, after AIM was targeted. And so, officially it's a suicide, but our family knows that that's what happens, So we were always told, you be careful. When I started, going into ceremony, being politically active, a lot of the family was like, look what they did to Leonard. Like, you better be careful, So that, the FBI, what they did there, they, if you look at the evidence that they had, I always think of when people are asking about Leonard, when you look at the evidence they had, they used that shell casing test. And so they tied Leonard's weapon with the shell case test. But they withheld the most reliable test, which is a firing pin test. And that absolutely showed that Leonard's weapon was not a match to that. So in that way, right there, he should be able to be let out. But because the United States, the court systems are so full of racism, and they don't even follow their own laws, then it's on a technicality that they did not reverse that. And so I deal with the courts in my job. I deal with Sonoma County Superior Court, and I believe that's the same court that the killer was let off really easy with Richard Oak's death. And I've had other people that they're related to them, and they end up having to go to the jail, and they still carry the anxiety of knowing that that's how that court system deals with that. And there's actually even been recent court cases with some of the natives up there, where they were doing. I went in and saw one of the brothers, and he said, I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Well, I don't get out much, but they've been doing this yard counseling." I said, "Oh, counseling, that's good." He goes, "No, it's not good." He said, "They take you out there." He says, "All we were doing was working out and working together, and they didn't like that we were working together. So they take you out of your cell, they put their knee in your back, they bend your arm until you scream, and they just went down the line and did it to all of us." And so all the other inmates worked together and got money together, bailed one of them out so they can get to an attorney, and he did. They ended up winning the case, and the jail, Sonoma County Jail, they settled. And who was part of that was Red Bear. He won that case, And then during the protests, during the Black Lives Matter protests, and he ended up winning the case again, but that's after they shot him directly in the face, and fractured his jaw and, did a lot of damage, so the racism continues, and, some things have changed, but some things have not. And I always, I've written Leonard, and I, thanked him for his sacrifice, because all of us, we have a lot of opportunities that wouldn't be there if warriors like JR, like Leonard and Richard, if they did not stand up at that time, our way of life would have died out, and we probably wouldn't even know our tribes. We would have no pride. We would have broke as a people, So that time, it's so important, and there's no thanks that's that is big enough. But I know the best thing we can do is we can carry on that struggle that is handed to us from our ancestors. The young ones, the ones today, the ones that are alive, all we can do is to do the best we can with the time we have. And all we have to do is remember Remember that our ancestors lived and died for us to be here today, and that we have a great responsibility that's passed down. And through our ceremonies, it's been shared that the old ones are trying to work through us, but we have to be available. You have to be a clean vessel for them to work through, because that's how all the powerful things that happened in the past, it's because our people were clean vessels, clean, clear-minded. So being on the red road, that Chonkaluta red road, being indigenous, being clean and sober, and then being part of your ceremonies, because then that makes you available for our ancestors to work through you and use you. And in that way, that's the only way our way of life is going to continue. That's the only way that we're going to truly honor our ancestors. And so that's one thing that has helped me in my life. And that's just one of those teachings that is so beautiful and powerful that come from our ancestors. Aho.
Adam, thank you very much. And yes, the racism in Northern California after Richard Oakes was murdered, killed in 77, 78. Patrick Hootie Croy of Karuk and his sister, Norma Jean Croy, were caught in a similar situation with white people who chased them with guns and rifles up a mountain, and they were charged and given life sentences, and this is a type of justice over there, and ultimately they were exonerated, released from after serving time in prison. They were released, and yes, with Wounded Knee, that was 1973 that you mentioned, and what ensued after that of Wounded Knee, after those days, there 71 days, I believe it was a reign of terror that's referred to on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and over 60 men, women, even kids, young people were killed, assassinated, disappeared by accident, however, but unaccounted for deaths that were not investigated even to this day by the Department of Justice. And it was under that reign of terror that Leonard Peltier was caught up there on the Jumping Bull compound in South Dakota. That was in June 25 or 26 of 1975. Yes, June 26 of 75. And he's been languishing there in prison ever since. So my relatives, I gave you that number to call President Joe Biden at the White House, 202-456-1111. And do that Monday through Friday from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. They take those calls. All right, and don't forget, tell your friends, Eagle and Condor, Sundays, listen to KPFA Radio in Berkeley, 94.1. You have La Onda Bajita on Friday nights, and I have a segment there. Oh, they have a segment, or rather, La Onda Bajita has been broadcasting for 43 years from KPFA. And before that, Miguel Molina Gavilan was at KBBF, so a total of 50 years by relatives. And the California legislature, I might have said it before, in 2002 recognized, the Assembly recognized the great work of KPFA and La Onda Bajita. So stay tuned into that. Also, Bay Native Circle on KPFA on Wednesday nights from 7 to 8 o'clock. And we rotate there with Janine Antoine, Eddie Madril, Morningstar Gali, and myself rotating on Wednesday. So tune into that. All right, let's go into that movie.
During our program, we'll try to have a couple of breaks, so maybe some of you that are just viewing some of these pictures, paintings on the wall done by our brother Leonard Peltier. And as I understand, there's this exhibit that's going on that coincides with our gathering here. So in the coming days, a lot of people will be also viewing those, and I guess they're also up for sale. And I don't know how the bidding process is, but we'll be also receiving words from the Leonard Peltier local support group as we begin to celebrate Native American history, celebrate the history of the liberation of Indian lands across this country. And so tonight we want to present and start a program that started many years ago under the leadership of Bill Wapipaw, who organized and brought back the on Thanksgiving Day event that takes place at Alcatraz Island. So in the spirit of that resistance, in the spirit of many of the brothers and sisters that come together and be part of this struggle in the last 40 years and the story of Alcatraz. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. That's what we want to present tonight in the spirit of song, dance, film. We want to celebrate that spirit of resistance. In the next coming days, many Native people will be meeting with President Obama. And for some of us that have strong opinions and views and these meetings and some of the politics that will be coming out of that gathering. And then we also want to recognize the gathering that's going to be taking place tomorrow in the spirit of our brother, Leonard Peltier. As again, many nations, many people come together in the spirit to bring attention to his cause. So tomorrow, that will be also taking place in Washington, D.C. So tonight, as we begin our program and we begin to think about these events that's going to be coming, and I want to thank you, each and every one that's here tonight. I know that sometimes when we have meetings, gatherings, it's not about the size of the crowd or the audience. It's about why we're here. We're here to learn. We're here to share and cooperate in that spirit that our ancestors, that many of our warriors died and sacrificed today. And tonight we're going to be watching a film. Alcatraz is not an island. And we're fortunate enough to also have the director and the filmmaker of that be sharing us his story and bring us up to date on some of the other areas. And so tonight we also want to have up here where this drum and this flag here, the red, white, and blue with the Indian head on it, is also in memory of one of our brothers, Indian Joe Morris, who just recently passed away on us, who was 88 years old, one of the elder veterans of Alcatraz Island, who was a longshoreman who brought the solidarity and the support of the longshoremen and was instrumental in getting food and supplies to Alcatraz. So in that spirit, we want to, this flag here is here. It's going to be presented to his family, his relatives on Alcatraz Island come Thanksgiving Day. And there's some pins here. There's also a little bit about who Joe Morris was. People are welcome to sign that flag, and it's going to be presented to him. And one of the formal directors of the Intertribal Friendship House and one of the veterans of Alcatraz will be sharing some words with us about Joe Morris his story. And of course, we have our Indian brothers and sisters from the south of us, the Aztec dancers. And they'll be sharing their spirit, their prayer with us tonight as we continue to begin to remember why we're here, in terms of, it's kind of ironic and it's also kind of funny when we think about the only time that Indian people become on the radar is when it comes to Thanksgiving, and also recently Columbus Day. Many people are being asked to give their side of their history. Many Indian people are being asked to share in schools. But I think it's very important for us to really remember that history. Right here at this La Peña Cultural Center, where many activities took place in the early 70s, the Pain for Freedom Survival Group with Bill Wapipaw and a lot of the people in that Bay Area at that time. And out of that organizing grew the Alcatraz, the spirit of the occupation, the spirit of resistance across this land. That's part of the story of the Alcatraz, the longest walk 2, the walk for justice. And many of the ceremonies that took place on Alcatraz Island for solidarity. So tonight, I'll be sharing this time with one of my sisters here, Mary Jean, will be helping moderate and MC the program this evening. And then we'll also want to call up one of my brothers here. He's going to open for us tonight, share his spirit and his words and his songs. And we also want to have a prayer. And then we'll get into our program, and then we'll begin to watch the movie. And then we'll also have some more words. Say a few words.
Thank you, Jimbo. That's one of the reasons that we're here tonight is to honor the folks that were on Alcatraz in 1969, 1970. And I'm just going to read a few of the names of the folks that were on the island. There are many, many more. Richard Oakes, Al Miller, Patrick Janiha, Joe Bill, Mickey Gimmel, LaDana Beans, John Trudell, Lehman Brightman, John Whitefox, Ross Hardin, Russell Walden, Frank Chase, Jim Vaughn, John Cutnose, Mark Goodbear, Ed Castillo, Francis Burnside, Glenn Buddo McLemore, Howie Nez, Adam Fortunate Eagle Nordwall, Madonna Gilbert, Stella Leach, David Leach, Robert Free Galvin, Lenny Foster, Indians of all tribes, United Native Americans, and Eloy, forgive me, I've forgotten your last name, Martinez. I also know for sure that L.D. Bratt and her 4 children were on the island, Jerusha and Georgia, Peter, and Benjamin Bratt. And I know that there were many other people that through the months came and visited. We heard from Dennis Banks that some of the AIM people came out from Minneapolis after the first folks came to the island, and were very impressed with the occupation and the amount of energy and the amount of attention that is being put on Indian people because of the occupation. So while we're saying the prayer, let's think of all these people that started something that we didn't even know we started.
Creator, I would like to
Mike,
say homage to all of the veterans that are.
it's a mic on there, please.
I'd like to pay homage to all the Alcatraz veterans who are no longer here. Joe Morris, whose flag is out here tonight, was probably one of the main people on Alcatraz. He's probably one of the unsung heroes. He did a lot of stuff that people aren't even aware that he did. You know, he collected money, he made sure people got fed, food was carried, boats were arranged, rides were arranged, a lot of, you know, different stuff that, and he was on the list, by the way, so you need to add him too. But there's just so many people created that I just am thankful that I got to meet a lot of these folks and be part of that. And just, you know, when we took over Alcatraz, it was like, it was, you know, an idea more than anything. It was like, we never expected to stay there as long as some people stayed. We figured the federal government would come in real quick and take everybody off. When they didn't, we were probably the biggest surprised people on the island. So for that, I'm thankful, because even when there was a lot of stuff that went on the island that wasn't good, wasn't bad, but altogether it came out the way it was supposed to, because it brought people aware, made everybody aware that we're still here, we're alive, you know.
You know, sometimes we don't know what we do until later. And I think Alcatraz was one of those things that we knew was a good idea. And the folks that did it were so brave and courageous. And the folks that stayed were stubborn as all hell. 19 months, folks, 19 months, people were out on that frozen rock with no water, no food. Everything had to be boated in. And this was a really good experience for a lot of people, because there was a lot of support in the Bay Area from non-Indians who finally recognized, hey, there's something going on here, and maybe we can do something to help. It was the very first time the United States government returned land back to Indian people, because Alcatraz was occupied. Richard Nixon returned the sacred Blue Lake back to the Taos Pueblo people. Because Alcatraz was occupied, the termination of Indian nations, which was a policy of the United States government, was ended. As a matter of fact, Nixon said, we are going to end the policy of termination and turn it into self-determination. That's where it started, Alcatraz Island. And that's why those of us who through the years have returned over and over again to say the prayers, to honor the folks that did the occupation, to remind everybody what it was really about. You know, we started off with on Thanksgiving Day, Bill Wapapa and the Aim for Freedom Survival School, all the kids, everyone. I remember some of those first journeys, and they were very small, and they were out on the edge of the island there was a teepee on the edge. I think Robert Free Galvin put up that teepee, and we said prayers there. It was a ceremonial time, and it was a time that a lot of people were for the first time gathering together with Indian people. And it was an interesting time too, because it was a time when American women were finding their voice and finding their strength. And there were some issues, because ceremonially, women who are on the moon cannot come into the first circle. They have to remain behind. And there were so many misunderstandings about that. So few women realized that the reason American Indian women always stayed on the outside of ceremonial time when they were on their moon is because that was their time of power. Their time when the magic was so strong that their blood would disrupt the ceremony. It was not about being pushed back. It was not about being outside. It was about being too powerful. And we knew that. So it took time to explain to some of these ladies that it was not about being second-class citizens. So these are all interesting things that everybody learned about, and everybody got together, and it was a time of learning, a time of real prayers and strengthening, and reminding one another that we have some strengths that we can share with one another. So I want to thank you all for joining here. This light is kind of bright, and I like to see who I'm looking at sometimes, because, you know, we're strong people, and it's really good to see all of you out there, because American Indian people need the support of everyone else. We need to know that you understand that we're still here and we're going to remain here. And we need your support to get recognition for those Indian people, particularly in San Francisco. The original people of San Francisco have never been federally recognized. Those are the Ohlone people. And I was just looking at an article on the History Channel where they were talking about Darfur and the genocide at Darfur. And I was thinking, you know, they were talking about making it personal, how 3,300 villages were actually destroyed. In San Francisco, there were 33 village sites that were completely destroyed in 1860. And that's within living memory. When I was 7 years old, my grandmother was 94. So I've had stories from that time period. So I know that it's within the memory of people living now. At least they have heard stories from their parents or grandparents or great-grandparents of that time period. And it wasn't that long ago that San Francisco was committing genocide on its native people. And that's something we have to remember, and we have to challenge people that, yes, it's important to honor the people of Darfur and to recognize the genocide that's going on. But it's also important to realize that it's not always that far away. It's right here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. So I want to remind people that we're here still struggling to get some recognition for the original people here. Thank you. Huh? Yeah, I always, you know, it's hard when you talk about people's bones. It's hard to remind people that there are bones at the basement of the University of California in Berkeley that have never been returned to the people. And that's because the people don't have federal recognition. So it's something that is struggling, you know, to happen right now.
Mary Jean, my name is Tony Gonzalez, director with AIM West, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. And as Eloy Martinez had said, we have a flag here we'd like for you to sign. If you're a veteran or in the service at any of the military branches, you can sign on where the stars are. And Eloy would like to present this to the family on Thursday, the November 26th. So we'd appreciate it if you all be there with us at Alcatraz Island on that grand occasion. Pilgrimage, the annual pilgrimage to the island to recommit ourselves to the sacred Mother Earth and all our relations. I'd like to now introduce Alvaro Talles and the Mexica traditional Aztec dancers of the Bay Area. They, along with the performers and speakers that are here tonight, have donated their time and contributed their efforts to demonstrate their commitment to the Indian community and to pay tribute to the 40-year anniversary of the occupation at Alcatraz. Alvaro Talles, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, we'd like to thank the Creator for, let us be here one more time. Support all the movement, indigenous movement. Every year we try to tell the whole world that, Indian, or I believe better word, native people still alive. And we're here just to show you a little bit of the native people of Mexico, Central, South America. And always thank you, Tony, and all organizations around that, we try to, speak ourselves and tell the whole world that native people still alive. Thank you very much. We call Tlazo Kamati, gracias, thank you. We're going to be showing you just a couple of movements that our ancestors called Xitontequiza. Xitontequiza mean cosmic movements. We're not here to show you kind of presentation, just a little bit of pray that our ancestors do it using the body, That's why we call the Xitontequiza. Gracias, Tony. Muchas gracias. We're going to be beginning with we're going to show you a little bit of our future, a presentation of our Mother Earth, the seed that we, that's part of our tradition. Everywhere where we're going, put a seed, grow up, and the tradition is still alive. So that's what we're going to show right now. And gracias. Thank you very much. Él es Dios.
Thank our brothers, sisters, future generations for sharing with us this evening. Our next group, one man band. Always like to hear Good Shield. I think I met him about 4 or 5 years ago in South Dakota, one of the Indigenous Environment Network. And his uncle is a friend of mine, and somebody I didn't see for almost 40 years later. And way back in the 70s, some of us did time in the military, and he was one of the guys that was there. And it's his uncle. So when I seen him and he was playing and performing, I really wanted to encourage him to continue his gift and his talent. And he's been traveling. I've seen him up in Washington, I see him in South Dakota, and up and down California, and he's been around. And we also want to ask for, we always have to ask for money. And tonight we, this program, everyone's given their time, and we haven't been asking at the door, because we know we live in a time now when everything, you know, it's very hard, but when we do give, it means a lot. And my brothers here, they're going to have our flag out here, and anyone that wants to give. And then my brother Goodshield is going to start off his set, and we're going to have a song, and then those that want to give, you know, and if you got a lot, I'll tell Tony, well, I wonder if anyone here has $100 they want to give tonight. Donation, you know, for what they're seeing and witnessing here tonight. I know John here, he has $50 bills somewhere, you know, so. And if not, your 20s and 10s and 5s and 1s are welcome tonight to help us out, so don't be bashful. All right, and here's Goodshield. Oh.
I greet you all in a good way. My name is Goodshield, and see, I've been involved with the Indigenous Environmental Network. That's actually where I met Jimbo for the first time on the Black Hills. And there's actually a big conference happening right now at this moment out in Washington, D.C. You know, Obama's trying to do this green economy thing, which I'm really leery about. But you know, anyway, I have a lot of friends there trying to see what's happening with that money. You know, supposedly there's money for particularly what I work with. I built straw bale houses. The first one I built was actually out at Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Anyway, it's you know, treading lightly on this earth. I'm also involved with DQ University, and you know, one of the things that they started the university for was mainly for appropriate technology, which is basically like solar power, wind energy, treading lightly on the earth, and especially where our food comes from. You know, using food that doesn't, growing food without chemicals, which is a big thing right now. You know, it's causing a lot of sicknesses that never existed, you know, less than 100 years ago. Anyway, in honor of that, you know, I've been losing relatives here and there, you know, because of cancer, lupus, and that. And I'm going to sing this song here. This is actually a Leonard Peltier song, honor song. And of course, you know, Leonard gave a press release recently, and you know, a lot of people thought Obama would let him out, you know, just because he's, you know, not white, you know. When I don't know, you know, it's, you know, Clinton went out to Pine Ridge back in I forget, it was like the year that he basically resigned from presidency. But, you know, he made a lot of promises when he was out there, you know, one of them being Henry Red Cloud. He was the man that I built the straw bale house for. And, you know, he said as soon as Clinton was gone, all the pictures were taken, and that was it. You know, it's like the tumbleweeds followed his limos and entourage out. And, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is we need to put our strength towards our native communities and not trust these puppets that have always been there to do exactly what they intend to do, which is fulfilling their agendas, you know, and part of that is taking away our sacred sites, our resources. You know, I'm drinking bottled water here, which we shouldn't be doing, and you know, that's a big thing. That's going to be another big thing, is bottled water. Anyway, this song here is for all, you know, because Dia de los Muertos just happened, and you know, I want to honor all the relatives who have passed, Leonard, who is still behind bars, and the generation to be. You know, I have 3 boys, and you know, I think about this all the time. Anyway, this is an honor song. I was really inspired to write a song. I wanted to write an album all in Lakota and, you know, Spanish and English, really, you know, kind of cross the imaginary borders there. Anyway, I came up with this song here. This is called Sangre y Oro. Mira, pinta Santa María, conquistadores de España, siempre quieren sangre y oro. Los diablos blancos quieren todo en el nombre de Dios. En el nombre de Dios. Mi corazón está en la tierra, mi sangre rojo es en los ríos, águila arriba en el cielo. Para este luchar no tengo miedo, indígena. Santa María, conquistadores de España, con el cruz de Cristo en sus manos y armas en el otro lado, en el nombre de Dios, sangre, en el nombre de Dios, sangre, en el nombre de Dios, sangre. Sangre, 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 sangre. How much time do I have? Oh, okay. I do have time to do my third. I live up in the Redwoods, up in Humboldt County, about 6 hours from here. It's a little colder there. This guitar usually lets me know. This is one of Uncle Floyd's songs. I see the train rolling in from Fargo, carrying my mother back to me. She died
Last week outside of Fargo, a victim of the country's apathy. No more fighting for me, mama. No more suffering to be done. No more pain and no more sorrow. But don't you know that you have won? 35 more miles and you'll be free. 35 more miles to go. And through the never-ending rain, I'll bring you home again. Oh, mama, 35 more miles and you'll be free. And though he never let me know you, but still you mean so much to me. And now I wish that I could show you all the love you're never gonna see. No more fighting for me, mama. No more suffering to be done. No more pain and no more sorrow. But don't you know that you have won? 35 more miles and you will be free. 35 more miles to go. And through the never-ending rain, I'll bring you home again. Oh, mama, 35 more miles and you'll be free. Yeah, 35 more miles and you'll be free. Yeah, 35 more miles and you'll be free.
I actually got to play with Uncle Floyd many, many times, since 2001. First time I played with him. Definitely, when I first started playing music, I was really young. I was like 10 or 12, somewhere around there, when I started to get serious about it. And I really didn't want to talk about my culture, because I didn't want to do it in the wrong way. I was really sensitive about it, but it wasn't until I heard actually "Cuss Your Guy for Your Sins." I was like, wow, that's a different approach, than I was thinking. I don't know. It's pretty, some non-native people hear that song and they really don't know what to think about it. They're either offended or they really like it. And personally, I really liked it. And, 2001 was the first time I got to play with him. And, it's been good. It still is. I mean, he's very much alive, strong and alive with us. And I played a lot of benefit concerts for the Longest Walk. When we were getting ready to do that, and unfortunately, he couldn't make a lot of them that he was, supposed to do. But I very much believe that he stuck around physically a lot longer because of the Longest Walk. His spirit. He just wanted to be there with the people. And that's what I really admired about him. Is that he had no. Certain groups, there's this person that doesn't get along with this person, so if this person talks to that person, they don't talk to you. Floyd doesn't like that, And, that's of anything, unfortunately, but that's what I really admire about Floyd. He just show up with his guitar, and when do we start? When do we eat? Anyway. I miss that guy. This is one of my honor songs here.
Awake, may the dream begin again from its dormant state, as the great floodwaters have now parted. Rebirth is imminent, and turbulence inevitable. For it is the way of creation and perpetual balance, chaos in beauty. Awake now and carry the responsibilities of endlessness, messengers of timelessness, flying with one foot in the future and one in the past. Awake. Once again we meet at the crossroads of infinity. The future of the past and the rebirth of the next world to be. May Earth's children heed the messengers, the ones who bring the voices of the past. For they are the voices of your ancestors who belong to the future and will welcome you around the fire of destiny, the fire without an end. I wasn't planning on playing the song originally, but since Indigenous People Day just happened, I actually wrote the song pretty soon after my first time I ever played Indigenous Peoples Day in San Francisco, and Uncle Floyd was there actually too. And anyway, this one's called Blood Memory. And he was talking a lot about a lot of urban. I mean, I can't even say it's an urban thing now. You know, Pine Ridge actually has gangs too, believe it or not. Not in the Navajo reservation, I get to feel pretty bad. But particularly he was talking about urban areas and how, you know, there's that need to fulfill this role, you know, especially in young males and females, but mostly males, you know, where they don't have this outlet to get this energy out, you know, where they don't have a role, or warrior role, you know, Kichita, a protector role. So gangs kind of fulfill that, you know, that void that they're missing. Anyway, I know when I was going through stuff, and right before I turned 20, you know, spoke with this. I'm part Spanish, French, and Irish too. You know, so I have a little bit of a Celtic thing happening. And I spoke with this redheaded Irish girl, a good friend of mine named Jody, and she talked a lot about dreams she would have, and talking about blood memory. You know, and it really resonated with me. Like, I still hear her voice clear as day. And it made a lot of sense. You know, the stuff I was going through at the time. And, you know, I see a lot of young people going through it too. And anyway, the song here is called Blood Memory.
The promised land of the people, immense reservoir of the rain of stars, fire and sun, emerald fields, and azure sky. The land is the alpha of the four winds, where heaven and earth become one. Its God is the sun, marching westward on three peaks. Deep inside, it's a wild ride in a place it's called blood memory. Genetic prints are better, they escape from the machine, came to take it away. Skin, the color of our creed and our soul. Skin, the mother of us all that you stole. Skin, the judgment of another one because of skin. All is fair in love and war when you are the one who's keeping score. Forefathers' colonies bring the heathens down to their knees with disease. Skin, the color of our creed and our soul. Skin, the mother of us all that you stole. Skin, the judgment of another one because of skin. All these tears are empty. Hidden fears still surface with rage. Can't erase blood memory. It affects what we hear and see and how we process this reality. Slow the steps, a funeral march, a song for the pilgrim, peace, silence, peace, silence. Not happy song. my family used to call me Richie Valens when I was growing up. Hey, you look like that guy from that one movie. Yeah. I like to talk about what Leonard talks about, along the lines of blood memory and fulfilling a role. Leonard talks about Kichita is our word, Lakota word for protector. We don't like that word warrior because warrior sounds really, like we're angry all the time. I want to cause war. It's not the way. I mean, Wolakota, actually means of the peace. Wolakota, is what Lakotas call ourselves. And he talks about the warrior spirit, Kichita spirit being anything, to keep the people going. It could be chopping wood for elders. It could be playing with the kids. It could be, just teaching them what's right and what you probably shouldn't do, because that's Coyote's job. But, he talks about that need to, for the youth, native youth, to really fulfill, feel like they're fulfilling something. He basically talks about reuniting with the elders and hearing what the elders have to say. Personally, I know, my mom's side is Yaqui. She's Yaqui, and we didn't really know about that side until we started asking questions. I was the one that started asking questions. And my little nieces and nephews are all interested in it. So it's a really good thing. It's what the 7th generation prophecy talks about. This time right now, everything that happened in the 60s was a platform for this generation right now. They're going to take everything that our generation before us struggled with to get us to where we are. Up until 1978, it was illegal for us to perform ceremonies, dance. That's not very long ago. It's 30-something years ago. Anyway, this is a song called Warrior Society. Thank you.